What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. Wow, we've got some breaking leaked news right now. Your man's Deontay Wilder has been banned and suspended from boxing by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for a record 6 months. Now, let me read to you the exclusive statement from NSAC. They said the following: Deontay Wilder will not be allowed to return to the ring until next April, following his IFL TV brutal defeat by Tyson Fury. Wilder was stopped in the penultimate round of the trilogy fight, having hit the canvas on 3 occasions, as he lost to the Brit for the second successive time. He was taken to hospital to be checked over before being discharged later on Sunday night with a broken finger, and the Nevada Athletic State Commission, NSAC, will not permit him to fight until April 8th. Boom. There you go then. So, the statement also goes on to explain why, as we know, not only, for example, from a standards point of view, if you have a stoppage loss, usually you get a 60 to 80 day suspension. 6 months is a long looking ass time. For example, when you think about it, AJ lost to Ruiz on June 1st. He ended up fighting Andy Ruiz, I believe, on December 7th. So literally, that was barely 6 months later. If that makes sense. 6 months is almost unheard of, a 6 month ban. From what I've read and from what I understand, the reason it's 6 months is because of the signs in the fight, if that makes sense. Wilder was a zombie looking ass. Yeah? And clearly the doctors have scanned in his post-fight hospital checkups. The doctors have determined that Deontay Wilder's state is down bad, bottom line. Otherwise, they'd give him the standard 60 or 90 days. 6 months? That's longer than Alvarez had for juice. You know what I'm saying? An actual ban. Now, I know this isn't a ban. Wilder wasn't banned, but the point is, doctors have concluded after looking at his scans that his brain is cooked. And the worst thing is about this, people, what did I tell you before the fight? I told you I'd heard from some medical insider, Don, who was associated and close to the Deontay Wilder situation. After the second fight, I said to you that I'm hearing Deontay Wilder may not get cleared for this fight. Oh, why be making stuff up? Oh, this, that, the other. Oops. What do we know now? He getting a record suspension. From what I also understand now, allegedly, essentially behind closed doors, Shelley Winkle and Wilder's team and them ones there, they essentially smoothed it over with the commission. Yeah? The commission were going to say, listen, he can't fight. He's too shot. And it's quite interesting, actually. If you listen to a lot of the Wilder fans, and not even Wilder fans, who was it? I think it may have even been Andre Ward or Lennox Lewis. They were even saying that Wilder, after the first round, he looked like a zombie. Yeah? He looked like the end of the second fight, if that makes sense. Even before Wilder got knocked down, he looked like the end of the second fight, like a zombie. And this is what I was trying to tell you. I got videos up. Deontay Wilder, neurologically compromised. Yeah? I tried to warn you, man. The signs were there before this fight even started. YB, what signs were there? Well, look at the things he was saying. He was saying things like, I'm 10 times better than Ali. Yeah? All this kind of, he was speaking things that didn't make no sense. And many people laughed, it's funny, YB, he thinks he lost because his suit was too heavy. YB, he thinks he's 10 times better than Ali. Your mum was laughing at it like it's all fun and games. The truth is, he was neurologically compromised. Yeah? He has alright, doctors don't understand the brain properly. In recent years, we've heard a lot about CT and whatnot. But Deontay Wilder looks to be suffering from some form of blunt force trauma-induced dementia. Yeah? Which is why he's often confused. Which is why, if you ever look at dementia sufferers, their movements. Now, obviously, Wilder is still young, but the point is, it's early onset. Yeah? He's had it knocked into his head. Or not, whatever it is. Some part of him ain't there no more. That's why he's like a zombie. Yeah? Can't hold his hands up. Just standing there. And in a way, I believe, for example, if you look at some of Ali's last fights, Ali wasn't really knocked out. He'd just stand there, wouldn't he? Ali had that same vacant standing thing. I mean, even look at Frank Bruno. Frank Bruno had that same vacant to stand there, get whooped on all night. Wilder, what do we know? Look at Frank Bruno. He suffered with some, not so much, his were more, what would you call it? His were more psychological than neurological, if that makes sense. What do they call it? Bipolar and whatnot. But either way, all of that stuff, guess what? Frank Bruno wasn't exhibiting bipolar before he got knocked in the head a load of times. Oops. Yeah? Wilder, he on the other side of things. His brain cooked. He's zombified. He looking like, call me a lie, did or did not Wilder look like Ali in there? Just standing there with his hands by his chest and just getting rocked all over the place. Yeah? Very low coordination. I know Wilder hasn't never been the most coordinated, but come on, people. He's never looked... It's clear that... I mean, for example, before I did this video, I wanted to make sure that what I'm saying is backed up in evidence. For example, go and watch Deontay Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne in 2015. That fight was a 12-round and a grueling fight. Look at the difference there. And by the way, before people start saying, oh, YB, you know, it's the weight. Well, that was... When Wilder fought Bermane Stiverne back in 2015, yeah, that happened to be Wilder's career highest weight at 230. So he's only 8 pounds heavier after 6 years. And look at the coordination in that Bermane Stiverne fight. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, Tyson Fury is leagues above Bermane Stiverne, but you'd still think it's night and day. When you look, if you watch the Bermane Stiverne fight and you watch this one, it's clear to see that there's something not right. Now, either way, to be fair to Fury, this doesn't take away from Fury's win at all. Why doesn't it? Because Fury was the one who induced the damage in the second fight. Yeah? And I did speculate that, well, maybe this break for Wilder's been best because he's had 18 months off to recover. But we now know the 18 months still wasn't long enough. And to be honest, he probably shouldn't be fighting again. Bottom line. Yeah? It's got nothing to do with the weight. If it was about the weight, Wilder would have been a zombie in the Bermane Stiverne 2 fight. Actually, again, I watched that back. And Wilder was throwing shots and looking coordinated the whole way through. Yes, he wasn't getting as rocked by Bermane Stiverne, but I'm sorry, people. I don't believe this was just a case of being rocked. He was zombified in there. 100%. I'm sorry, what? No, sorry. Of course it's induced by being rocked, but I'm saying this wasn't just the events of one night, I don't believe. This looked like an accumulation. And that also explains why he can't shake it off. There was never no second wind. He was literally zombie, and that was it. Full zombie. Full Muhammad Ali zombie. That's what it looked like, 100%. And now and again, never mind what I'm saying. That it's all adding up perfectly now. 6-month ban, boom. I've never heard of that before in my life. I've never heard of someone have a 6-month ban before. 6-month suspension. Never heard of it. So this tells you what you need to know. Yeah, Wilder, really? I know Malik Scott's just become head trainer and he's trying to milk the cow some more, but Wilder, I'm sorry, but Wilder's got no business being in the ring again. I mean, for example, look at his training videos. Did you, man, not find it suspect? Wait there. I called it out. I said, listen, why is Deontay Wilder not bringing no killers into his sparring? He brought in Robert Helenius. Now to Robert Helenius, to be fair, he looked all right in his fight, but either way, the point is, people, Helenius ain't no Jared Anderson. He was brought in to be stiff and no good, and to stand there like a heavy bag. Why is that? Why was Wilder concentrating so much on pad work? I believe, from what I'm hearing, it was to essentially not put no more miles on the clock. They know Wilder is neurologically compromised, which is why Team Wilder and Shelley Winkle had to go to the commission to smooth it over in the first place, because he weren't going to get a license for this third fight, full stop. So it was all interlinked here. The Wilder's team know he's sensitive, if that makes sense. He can't afford to be taking no more miles on his Barnett. His Barnett's already half fried. Yeah? And that's why people keep saying, why couldn't he implement the things he was doing in the training room? Well, in the training room, when you got that kind of fragility, that zombie fragility, you get hit once and it's literally, you know what I'm saying? One hit, not even heavy, just one hit and that's it, it's game over. You literally can't take no hits, which explains why he wasn't doing no sparring for most of the camp. And it explains why, after the first round, literally, do you think it's a coincidence? First round, what's that first round? I don't believe Fury threw a punch. Or if he did, none of them landed. That first round, before Wilder got hit once, not before the knockdown, before Wilder got hit once, he was okay. He gets touched once, and all of a sudden, It's that kind of he got re-traumatized. Yeah, that trauma, that neurological trauma, that CT thing kicked in. That's it. Peak for him. And it was a vacant zombie ever since. Look at him in the corner. He wasn't doing much in the fight, but he was blowing his ass off. That's another thing as well, by the way. For example, when you see people knocked down, yeah, or if you see someone knocked out, severely knocked out, what do you notice about their pulmonary system? Yeah, what do you notice about their breathing? They're on their back and that's that parasympathetic response. Yeah, they're breathing. The automatic nervous system kicks in and they're breathing heavily. Your body's gagging for oxygen, trying to keep you alive. Yeah, trying to resupply the brain with oxygen. And look at Wilder in the corner. He may as well have been flat on his back. He was in the corner, head down, gulping for air, even though he weren't doing much. Oh, YB, it's the weight. It's not the weight. Look at Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne. Look at Wilder versus the Ortiz fights. And even in them Ortiz fights, he was getting rocked. Yes, don't get me wrong. Not to the degree that Fury rocked him. There's no doubt. Fury rocked him to the nth degree. But nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? Being rocked is one thing. Being zombified is another whole different element. So really, Wilder and his team, rather than going in there, Shirley Winkle, rather than going in there and trying to smooth things over with a commission, look out for your mans. Tell him, listen, Wilder, you spent right now. Be grateful that you can still talk in that. Even though we can already see some early onset delusions and you're barking mad, talking about madness, about this, that, the other, at least you can, you know what I mean? At least you can still speak properly. Because you going in there and standing there like on some Frank Bruno, Muhammad Ali thing, just standing like a robot open, no good. That's no good for your career. That's proven no good for your career. And no good for your brain either. Already when you're exhibiting these things. In a way, people have been speculating, Malik Scott's obviously still trying to bang the drum, because he needs to, he's head coach now, isn't he? He's getting the full 10% or whatever it is. So he's thinking, damn, I need to ride some more juice out of Wilder, but I hate to break it to you, Malik. Guess what? Fury has ridden all the juice there is to be had out of Wilder. He's got nothing left. Anything, I'm telling you now, any more fights Wilder has is literally going to be taking years off his life. That's what, simple as that. That's what, at this point, from my medical experience, every time Wilder gets in that ring, he's going to be exchanging rounds for years. Bottom line, people. Simple as that. I mean, look at the guy. Show me what intelligent things he did in there. He wasn't even defending intelligently. No word of a lie. I've done videos before, and I've showed you videos of my amateur sparring, yeah. And when I was first learning boxing, as most people do, guess what? When you get put under pressure, what do you do when you're put under pressure as an amateur? You lean back and you put your chin in the air. That's an amateur response. You pull back and your chin goes wide in the air and you drop your hands. Because why? That there is a primitive amateur. That's like a natural response. Why? You're trying to get away from the danger. But trained boxers know, pulling back with your chin in the air, yes, psychologically, or yes, mentally speaking, or immediately speaking, it's that get away from danger. But in reality, you're much worse off because your chin's in the air, yeah, and you're good for nothing. Trained boxers know, get your chin down, get your elbows in, and watch what's coming back. Watch what's coming and react to it. Slip, pivot, catch, parry. Was Wilder doing any of that? All I saw Wilder doing all night was pulling back with his chin in the air. Now, watch Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne. Even in that fight, he weren't doing this. He weren't that amateur. And this is what I'm saying. When you've got early onset dementia and whatnot, these are the things you're going to lose. You're going to lose memory and cognitive control. Do you understand? You're not going to have in boxing. These are these skills you learn in boxing. That there is cognitive memory. You need to be sharp, as we know. You can't be a half dementia, early onset dementia zombie in there. Otherwise, you can end up reverting to them natural primitive instincts, which are pull back with your hands in the air. Primitive instinct. Everyone has that. If you get a 5-year-old and go to attack them, they're going to pull back with their chin in the air. Oh man, Wilder been doing it 10 years, and even in his earlier fights, before he became neurologically compromised, he weren't displaying these things, these signs. Oops. So the commission needs to really step in. It's no good signalling, 6-month suspension. What you need to do is do the proper thing. Wilder, go sit down somewhere, because you spent right now. You spent. And it's a shame that we hear about CT, but apparently The only way you can detect CTE is once people are dead. So, I mean, that's no good, is it? That's no good, is it? Now, I'm not sure why that's so difficult to detect. You can clearly see Wilder's brain is rotting from the inside. I mean, I'm not being funny. Listen to what the guy's saying. Not making no sense. 10 times better than Ali. And you're pulling back with your chin in the air. Wow. Yeah? So Wilder and the commission, stop paying the commissioner and tell your man to go sit down somewhere. Stop exchanging brain cells for coins. Because your man's spent right now. He's been spent. Yeah? Wilder should concentrate now on being a pad man. Just concentrate on doing pads and looking good on Instagram. Because what you don't want no more is no more trauma to the head. No doubt. So Wilder, he's suspended for 6 months and rightfully so. It should be a lifetime ban, to be honest with you. For his own safety. Because I'll tell you what you don't want. I mean, I hate to think what would have happened if Fury had been boxing properly. I'm telling you now, if Fury, had been boxing properly, I had a feeling this fight was starting to look like, watch Adonis Stevenson versus, who did he fight? I'm not sure, but Adonis Stevenson fought someone. Was it Gassiev? I'm not sure, but Adonis Stevenson fought someone, and yeah, he ended up comatose. That's where it would have gone. Because the man that Adonis Stevenson fought wasn't loading up. He was just throwing loads of accurate and volume shots. 75% were landing, and he was throwing big volume. And they were rattling off of Stevenson's head. Now, Wilder's lucky that Fury was only loading up. If Fury had been touching him all over, and just with light shots, your man's Wilder would have been, I'm telling you now, it's a fact. He'd have been in serious trouble. He's lucky Fury only gave him the one bang. That's a fact. And the fact that these teams, they don't know the wider ramifications here. They can't. It's amazing that I don't even know Wilder from Adam, but how can I see these things and they can't? It's mad. They're either ignorant, low IQ, or gluttonous. They're just greedy for their own money. Or probably a mixture of all three, to be fair. Super greedy, super ignorant, and super low IQ. That makes sense. That sounds like Wilder's team to me. That sounds like Malik Scott, no doubt.